I think they're the worst franchise in the league right now. I just think they're sort of on an aimless path. Wretched. Their two best receivers are their two tight ends. Protection has been dreadful. It's just been a disaster. And now, they make the switch to Jerod Mayo, and it's if it's possible, it's worse. I don't think they thought they were going to bottom out like this. And I don't even know that they've hit rock bottom yet. In fact, I still think there's another level or two to go.
How was the rest of the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
It is, I'm telling you, man, it's like staggering how much they've been emasculated in the run game every single week. It's like, do something, do anything, do the opposite, do the George Costanza, the opposite of what you think is right. Do the opposite. Maybe that'll work. They don't adjust. It's,
like that rant Bills fans are just going to play over and over again after 20 years of torment. So things are going well for you.
No, it's great. I'm loving it.
All right, we now welcome back on for the 941st time on Buffalo Plus, the recurring guest, the gold standard, I would say, of guests, Mike Giardi, our good friend from the Boston Sports Journal. Mike, it has been a while. It's been too long. How the hell are you?
I'm outstanding. Great to be with you as always. Although nice to see that your coworkers, they just couldn't make it back in time.
Yeah, well, we have a bone to pick. The cheap shot about the paternity leave.
Well, I don't think that wasn't a cheap shot. That was accurate. You were slacking. So I think this is their payback. They're like, you know what? Screw you. We're not getting back from Detroit in time.
They got back from Detroit when I said I'll be back to anchor. They couldn't have gotten back faster to get home and away from the station after the 2 weeks that I put them through. So, yeah. But again, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If not for me, do it for Mike. Just GRD. He's the best as always. So again, I want to start out, Mike, because this is a weird kind of matchup. Does it feel as weird to you as it does for me? Because for the longest time, Bills Patriots rivalry, you marked it on the calendar and all of those things. This just seems now like a throwaway game.
Yeah, it's definitely bizarre. I mean, certainly we're talking about for the last 5 years, the Patriots have been incredibly irrelevant. Even with Belichick, and sort of his dwindling star power. And now, they make the switch to Jerod Mayo, and it's if it's possible, it's worse. So I don't know what you're going to get from the Patriots. I'll be real. Like I could see them looking at this game and saying, man, let's just empty the tank for this one. Cause the rest of it does, Chargers at home, whatever, Bills in week 18, the season could be over. Like, let's get one big upset under our belt that we can sort of hang our hat on and carry the momentum into the off season. But based on how they played, I mean, just this yesterday with the coming off the bye and looking like they hadn't practiced or prepared in the least bit for a middling Arizona Cardinals team, says a lot about sort of where they are and, just sort of the direction this thing is going in.
All right. So I wanted to get to Mayo in a minute, but I guess with all the strangeness of this matchup, because this used to be just a rivalry of all rivalries, even though it was very lopsided, it was still a game that both fan bases really got up for because of the hatred. That doesn't seem to be there. Talk about a little bit about Drake Maye. What is he? Who is he? What could he become, I guess? Because that's the one interesting element, I think, of this game is the rookie quarterback.
Yeah, so I keep comparing him to sort of Josh Allen light. Obviously not sort of the same physical presence as Josh is. Drake's 6'4.5". Mm-hmm. He's about 220. He could probably easily get to 235, but Josh has got that extra 10 and just, I don't know that Drake's going to be running over too many dudes,
sure,
or even hurdling them, but he is a really good athlete, runs extremely well. He's on pace to surpass Michael Vick's rookie yards per something like that. I don't pay too much attention to that stuff, but like,
stats.
But like there is
an element.
Yeah, there's definitely an element that teams have to be wary of, and if you're not, he will burn you. So, and he's honestly he's turning the ball over a little too much, but I think most of us are okay with that. I think it's just sort of the process. Like, you just throw him in there and you look at what's around you, really bad offensive line, really bad at wide receiver again for like the 7th year running, and say to yourself, like, he's elevated this group and it's pretty hard to do. So like if there are going to be some mistakes, that's fine. He tends not to be an error repeater, which his head coach is very much an error repeater. So there's something good you can hang your hat on. Look, he has, honestly, I think he has all the potential in the world. Like if you're telling me in 2 or 3 years that he's one of the 7 or 8 best quarterbacks in the league, I think he could absolutely be that. If you're telling me he doesn't reach his full potential because they screwed him up, I could totally see that. And that's sort of where they're at. You know, like we go with the Mac Jones thing, and like, look, Mac Jones didn't have nearly the talent in his little pinky that Drake Maye has in his whole body, you know, but like, or vice versa in his body, that you know what I meant. But like they screwed that up too. Like, and maybe it would have washed out, but it didn't have to go bottom out like it did.
Yeah.
I just think they're sort of on an aimless path. And I think we've seen, you know, there's plenty of guys that come in the league and maybe they have a moment or two and you're like, ooh, they got something. And then the next thing you know, 2 or 3 years later, you're like, ah, he's been benched for the 4th time and he's never going to start again. You know,
they always talk about the 3 P's that you want when you bring in a young quarterback: playmakers, protection, and play callers. It seems like the Patriots have nailed it, Mike. Like they've really crushed it.
Yeah. So playmakers, definitely not. Just wretched. Their 2 best receivers are their 2 tight ends, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. You know, is basically a journeyman tight end at this point. Protection has been dreadful. First 5 weeks, 5 different offensive line combinations, settled down a little bit, but it's, I mean, by no stretch is it a good offensive line at all. The guy you paid the most money to, Mike Nwenu, who they absolutely, I thought, had to keep in the offseason and did, has had a bad year. So David Andrews gets hurt at center, is lost for the year in week 4, and then Nwenu is bounced from right tackle, right guard, back and forth because of the instability they've had along the line. Has had a subpar year. So it's just been a disaster. Play caller, he's getting a ton of crap. Alex Van Pelt, former Buffalo Bill. I don't think it's all warranted, but he's definitely in the crosshairs of ownership and the head coach. So I think I was on with Tasker and Brownie a few weeks ago, and they were kind of surprised when I said, like, look, I think Alex is going to end up being the fall guy. And after yesterday's shot of the owners in the box and Jonathan Kraft seemingly ripping the play calling, I always think that's the easiest thing for owners to do because they don't know what they don't know what they're looking at, period.
Exactly.
But when it comes to defense and coverages, and there's 37 different versions of cover 2 and this, that, you know, like they have no idea. They literally have no idea what they're watching. At least when they're looking at offense, they say, well, he should have run the ball. Or he should have thrown the ball. Like they don't know protections. They don't know route combinations, none of that crap, what the quarterback's reading. It's just an easy thing to say. And I think they're going to get to the end of the year, likely at 3-14, and say to themselves, somebody has to go. And it can't just be the wide receivers coach, you know, like that's not enough. And to me, it feels like, well, it should be the defensive coordinator. That's Jerod's one hire. It'll probably be Alex.
This just seems like, how was the rest of the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
It is, I'm telling you, man, like my boss and I, Boston Sports Journal, I think we have the same text chain after every game. Like I got to write the same story again, you know, like,
hey, Catalana did that for 17 years. You bite your tongue. All right.
No, I mean, there is something to it. It's like, I mean, I guess it's easy. You sort of just like here to here. The coach did this. He said this. This is why that was wrong. This is why that was wrong. Then he did this, and that was that wrong. You know, like they stink, by the way. Like there's not a lot of talent. You just like wrap it all into a bow. You just present it in different ways. It's funny. Our readers will sometimes comment like, I don't know how you guys do it, because it feels like for multiple years, it's kind of the same story.
Yeah, and you had the same story for 20 years before that.
We did, except that story was unbelievable.
That was a cool story, but
right.
Mike, now you're expanding your talent.
Absolutely. Look, you would do 2 decades of what they did, and it was bound to come back on you. Like, let's just be real. Like that was unheard of, and that it went on as long as it did. I don't think they thought they were going to bottom out like this. And I don't even know that they've hit rock bottom yet. In fact, I still think there's another level or 2 to go, especially if they decide to stick with the same regime that they have in place right now. And, you know, I think they're the worst franchise in the league right now. And I know they don't have the worst record. You look at the Giants,
Giants in Cleveland would give them a run for their money.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Cleveland because of the commitment to Deshaun Watson, which makes you feel dirty inside.
Yeah.
And Haslam he's got his own track record with the law. Like, I guess, but like from where they were to where they went now.
And the Bills are like, I'm sitting here talking to a Patriots beat reporter about, like, could you imagine this story that we're having this conversation in 2016 going, this Patriots Bills game is just not interesting because the Patriots are the dysfunctional franchise. And I remember talking to you last year at the end of the Belichick era and going like, this is going so south and this is so bad. But you thought there had to be a change and you understood that.
Yep.
But you thought the change would bring something new and different and better. I guess that's a hope, but I always say you can hope in one hand and crap in another and see which hand fills up first.
So I think, look, so Jerod is not ready for the job. And, look, the backstory, they put it in his contract. He be the successor in waiting. I think they figured Bill had another year.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wouldn't have bottomed out like it did last year, that he would have 9-8, 8-9, one more year. He breaks the record. He sets off to the sunset. Jerod ascends with another year under his belt and as assistant coach. Instead, 5 years as an assistant, never the defensive coordinator, never the play caller. And he becomes the head coach.
Yeah.
With a very Rolodex, if you will. I know it's an old term, but like a very little contacts, there's not that he has a coaching tree, but like he hasn't even made enough relationships to be like, oh yeah, get me the guy from the Rams. He can run my offense and get this guy, get that guy. So what ends up happening is Elliott Wolf, who's been around the league for a long time and in multiple places and is well respected, he ascends to GM. He's been here for a bunch of years now. He ascends to GM and it becomes Elliott Wolf's hires. Like Alex Van Pelt is the offensive coordinator, one, because they struck out with Nick Cayley, who was a former assistant in New England, who decided to stay with the Rams as a passing game coordinator, not even the OC, then rather than come here.
Yikes.
Alex was the 12th of 12 guys they interviewed, but that was they basically were going through Elliott's list of people because Jerod doesn't have any people. And that's why I said the defense coordinator, DeMarcus Covington, that was Gerod's one hand-picked guy on the staff. Like, I got to have, Dante Hightower's the linebacker coach. He brought him out of retirement, but like, this is my guy. And so all year long, as the defense has been absolutely atrocious, we want to talk about like things going the wrong way. You at least thought, okay, new offensive coordinator doesn't call plays regularly since he was with the Bills in 2009. But like defensively, we have Mayo's a defensive guy. Covington's been on the staff and he's worked his way up, and every position group that he's coached has been one of their better position groups. Like maybe it's a little early for him, but you'd figure those two will be able to combine their brain power, and the defense won't be quite Bill Belichick type defense, but it'll be
feisty,
at least like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. They were 9th in DVOA last year. They are dead last in DVOA on defense this year. And look, they've had some injuries. Christian Barmore with the blood clots and didn't come back until like a month ago.
Right.
Juwan Bentley was lost in week 2. Like he's the communicator, the linebacker, kind of the glue that holds it together. Jabril Peppers ends up on the commissioner's list for off the field stuff for basically 2 months. But like, okay, they've had those guys back now for a little bit.
Right.
Last year they went without Gonzalez and Matthew Judon, who was still a good player for them at that point, for basically the better part of the year. And like I said, they finished 9th in DVOA. They didn't have those guys for 13 games. This year, they've got 9 of their 11 starters back together, and they can't stop a nosebleed. Like 163 yards rushing yesterday. Like it's almost every week. If you go and look at it, it's like staggering how much they've been emasculated in the run game every single week. It's like, do something, do anything. Do the opposite. Do the George Costanza, the opposite of what you think is right. Do the opposite. Maybe that'll work. They don't adjust. It's, oh, God, it's like, it is. It's like all these years of watching Bills and Jets and like just the tomfoolery, the idiocy that happens. This is what they have become. And they were too arrogant to think they could get there. And now they're here and they're getting slapped around and everybody's enjoying it because they were arrogant.
You just had a Costanza moment. Like you were,
you were just an out of body experience.
Yeah. Oh
like,
man.
Giardi, you just talked for 5 minutes straight.
It was beautiful though. Like that rant, Bills fans are just going to play over and over again after 20 years of torment. Yeah. And I guess I want to go off that Mayo thing real quick, because there were the shots of the press box this last game. Does he get fired? Can he get fired? What would that mean for Kraft in that? Because it's kind of like the Maras for a little bit of like, they hold themselves to such respect in the NFL, and their image is so important to them. Can they fire a coach after 1 year after he was handpicked technically to be his replacement?
Yeah, I don't think Robert wants to. I think Jonathan, his son, who was the one who was very critical there with his pen and paper in hand, because again, he knows so much about the X's and O's. I think Jonathan could easily be convinced. And I think the fact that Mike Vrabel is out there and that Mike Vrabel is going to get hired in this cycle.
Yeah.
And they, when Mike Vrabel got traded away with Matt Castle to Kansas City back in whatever year that was, 2005. No, 2008. Yeah, because Castle, 2008. It was because he made a remark about they built Patriot Place all around Gillette Stadium. And he's like, don't you think that should be part of our earnings? Like, we built this place. This doesn't happen without us, without the success that we've had. And I think like a month later, he got just basically shoved into a deal, even though he was still a good player, because ownership didn't like him talking out of turn. But they've mended fences. He was brought back last year during the season, put into the Patriot Hall of Fame. That didn't go over well with Tennessee, and may have been one of the things that led to their breaking with Tennessee, because I think a lot of people were surprised that he got fired there. But I know that didn't go well with the owner there. So they've sort of mended the fences with him, and the fact that he's looming, and he's going to get hired, meaning, if all goes well, you don't get another crack at him for 10 years, right? Like that's it. I do wonder, but Robert is very reluctant to turn his back on. In fact, to this point, and he signaled it to Diana Rossini, he signaled it to us through back channels, like he wants to back Jerod. He wants to give Jerod a chance. I understand they put him in a bad position. The roster's not very good. Again, the problem is this job wasn't a job for an inexperienced head coach, that they had fallen so far.
100%. Yeah.
That had they brought in Vrabel, I can tell you this right now. If Mike Vrabel was named the head coach this offseason, the Patriots are probably 6-8.
Yeah, because he did that with bad Titans teams.
You give them Drake Maye.
Yep.
The defense would not look like this at all. I'm sorry. I witnessed Mike in my time at the NFL Network, where they'd have like nobody on the field. Guys would be hurt, Jeffrey Sim, this, that, and the other thing. And somehow the end of the game, you're like, they only gave up 17 points to Joe Burrow. They only gave up whatever it was.
Leader of men.
Yeah. I think he would have established or reestablished the culture that sort of eroded the last couple of years of Bill. And they would not be doing the same dumb things that they were in week 2 that they did again this past weekend. It's just, again, I say it, and this was a Bill term, he didn't like error repeaters. Well, Jerod Mayo has been an error repeater pretty much since the day he took over, and that's got to be concerning.
That's big picture. I want to take one small, look at this week. And if you're a Bills fan and you're watching this and you're liking and commenting and subscribing, what are the players that the Bills should look out for? Because they have been so irrelevant this entire season that you can sit there and when they talk about it on the broadcast, the game got flexed to 425. That's the power of Josh Allen.
Yes.
Of just him being must watch TV that can take a 3-11 irrelevant Patriots team. But who are the guys, maybe a guy or two on defense, a guy or two on offense, that outside of Drake Maye, that you're going to go, hey, you're going to see this guy make some plays and that this is X, Y, and Z, Y.
Yeah, this game, the Patriots should be banished to 1:00 until they figure out how to actually act like a real franchise again. So Christian Gonzalez is their star cornerback. I know that's like, I guess he might match up with someone like Amari Cooper.
Okay.
If they felt like Cooper was the thing, but he's been following number 1 receivers all year long and has just had a phenomenal year. Like, I thought last year we only got to see him for 3.5 games, and he was great for 3.5 games. I felt like the buzz about him were like, oh, he's already a number 1 corner. Like people were putting him in the same conversation with like Shatan or Jair Alexander or whoever, like whatever your favorite flavor is, Sauce Gardner. And I'm like, he's got to do it, guys. 3.5 games is nothing. There's plenty of guys that have had good 3.5 games and then never sort of reached it. No, he's been he's been the guy all year, and he locked up Marvin Harrison, although, Harrison a little slower than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
But in general, like, give him the number one guy, and he's pretty much taken it away. In fact, they lost the game to the Rams, in which Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp went nuts. The Patriots decided in that game that they were going to play him on the boundary side. And so Sean McVay, a smart, experienced offensive coach, was like, you're not moving him with one of these receivers? We're just going to motion them away from him and run Demarcus Robinson over there or Tutu Atwell and just keep throwing to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And it took the Patriots 3 quarters to finally react to it. And by that point, Nacua had 100-something yards receiving, Kupp had 100-something yards receiving. And it was
Bills fans know about that.
Yeah. So he's a terrific player. He's very competitive. Yeah. Wow. Christian Barmore, I guess, is starting to round into form. Looked a little bit better this past week. It's been 4 weeks now. His snap count has gone up from like 25 to in the high 30s now. Starting to give a little bit more of a push. Keon White, who's number 99, plays on the edge, but also will slide inside at defensive tackle and pass rush situations. He's been their best pass rusher all year. Has a high motor. He's really athletic. Like, for someone who's 290 pounds, he runs like, he's 230. Probably could play tight end in this league. Offensively, Antonio Gibson, who was with the Redskins, he's their number 2 back. He's run the hell out of the ball for like the last month, like deserving of all the touches. I think PFF had him for 11 broken tackles in yesterday's game. And we're not talking about someone who's carrying the ball 20 times a game.
Could be a problem then, because the Bills have been suspect at stopping the run.
You guys, they're too light. They're too light on the interior.
I've been saying that. I've been saying that. We need more beef.
They need more beef indeed. So he's been good. Stevenson will get the ball a lot. Not had a great year, though he did have a good game against Arizona. I guess from a receiver standpoint, Pop Douglas, number 3, the little fella. They've had a hard time figuring out how to get him involved. He doesn't really fit the offense, which again, a flaw in the whole process here.
And can we expect Boot to just pop up another interception to somebody? Can we just pencil that in?
And then criticize the coaching staff and the game plan afterwards? Sure. Yeah. So I actually I got so irritated last night by the comments. And look, I've been critical of the receivers. The stink, stank, stunk. Obviously, last year this group is only like this much better. And I went and sort of looked at the top passing offenses in the league and how they distribute the ball. Just receivers, the percentage of the completions that go to receivers. I didn't like go targets and the whole 9 yards. And Drake May's percentage of completions to wide receivers is at 46% of his completions. He's got 170 something completions. I know I'm hitting you with a lot of numbers here.
I love it.
Basically, when I went across the board from Matthew Stafford to Lamar Jackson to Josh Allen, etc., they are, I think, the second lowest in terms of like passing. Now I just measured them against good passing offenses. I don't do the, the craptastic teams. Oh, although they are a craptastic team.
They are.
But like, it just goes to show you, like, they're having to throw to Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper in big spots. And Hunter Henry's a nice player. Austin Hooper's had a nice bounce back year. Like, they're not anybody's, no one's sitting there going like, damn, if we don't figure out a way to stop Austin Hooper, I don't know how we're going to win on Sunday. Like, there's not that fear.
You have a team full of Jags.
Oh,
they're just another guy.
Well, hey, look, like, so they invested, they sniffed around. They had the high second round pick, right? Like, and they sniffed around. They tried to call up and get Xavier Leggett. Wouldn't pay the price. Apparently, like Coleman, wouldn't pay the price. Decided to trade back from where they were a couple spots to pick up a 4th round pick. Flip with the LA Chargers.
Yeah.
The Chargers draft Ladd McConkey. Now, a lot of people, I love Ladd McConkey, but I understood why they wouldn't do it, because they had Pop Douglas and they're like, look, we feel pretty good about slot, and McConkey's going to do most of his work from the slot. So they trade back and they draft Jalen Polk, who I was a big proponent of.
I liked Polk.
Yes. He has been awful. And I don't know where it came from. I'm not even kidding you. He, in August, during training camp, through the length of training camp, looked like their best receiver.
Yeah.
Good rapport with Maye. Looked polished. I kept saying, like, I would write, like, almost every other day, I'd be like, he just looks like he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years. He's not going to wow you. He's not the fastest guy, but you throw the ball and he tends to get it. You're like, all right, you can, he may never be an 80, 90 catch guy, but he might be a 60.
Yeah.
12 catches, 87 yards. He's on the field a lot. It's not as if he's not on the field. He missed one game with a concussion. He had a couple huge drops and a terrible play at the end of the Dolphins, the first time with the Dolphins, where he didn't get the second foot in, and he had all day to get the second foot in. It would have been the game-winning touchdown. Like, he hasn't recovered. He was on the field. He had one target yesterday against the Cardinals where it was a corner route, and he like flattened the corner route out. Drake overthrew him by like 8 yards, and you're like, there's no way you did the right thing. And you know why I know that? Because you haven't been doing the right thing all year long. And he's not a bad kid. He's a smart kid. Like, it just, it is, he is so far in the tank right now. Like, I think it's pretty much write it off. And hopefully when we see you in the spring, you're back to being the guy you were when we drafted you.
So things are going well for you.
No, it's great. I'm loving it.
Is that bourbon in there?
You know what? It should be. It's a little, well, it's not even that early. I probably could have.
No, it's 5 o'clock on a Monday. It's fine. One last one before I let you go. Always appreciate your time. I was kind of expecting you though to wear the Buffalo Plus hat. I know you have it.
Can I tell you, you know what happened with that?
Did it go to college? Did it?
She took it. My daughter took it.
Daughters, man. Daughters.
And you can't say no.
Nope.
You don't even know yet.
No.
I mean, 4 and 1.5. Like, all right, so it's sweet, cute. You know, like they get a little older. Like, we've always had a great connection, she and I. I call her my twin. We have the same fuzzy eyebrows, the whole thing, you know, like, and she could pretty much, I think sweatpants of mine are there, sweatshirts. Yeah. Whatever she wants.
Hey, maybe we're getting Buffalo Plus fans in Lafayette. Like, we're just expanding.
Possible, right?
There it is. So I appreciate her rocking the merch if you're not rocking the merch. But last one, what's the vibe for the fans? Like what is the feel around Foxborough and around Boston and New England?
It's pretty depressed, man. Like, it's funny because everybody's excited that they feel like you have the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And we know how important that is in the league. But they're 2-7 in his starts, and one of those wins was Jacoby Brissett's win because he got concussed in the end of the first quarter, and Brissett was the one who led him to the comeback win over the Jets. So, like, even with him in the lineup, even with him showing improvement and promise every single week and making a play or two, like he made a play yesterday where, you know, he rolls to his left down by the goal line, and it looks like he's going to run. He's flirting with the line, but he knows where the line is the whole time, and he finally gets the defensive back to commit.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just flicks the ball sideways, touchdown pass to Pop Douglas, you know, a little 4-yard, 5-yard flip. But it was just like, dude, that's the kind of play that someone with poise and calm and like not harried at all by the situation. So he is the hope, the walking human vessel of hope. Unfortunately, the rest of it is pretty much on fire or crumbled to the ground around him. So it's, you know, a lot of people I think were hoping that the Mayo thing would work. Well, now the people that didn't want Belichick to go are like, see, you cast away the greatest coach ever for this buffoon, and it's not working. And then like, are you going to blow it up again and again fall into the trap of being the bad franchise that's constantly hitting the reset button? I think it's been a big wake up call for people, because I think there were even people that went into this year and be like, oh, that defense, they could probably still win 7-8 games. It's like, no, they can't.
I'm sorry.
No, hey, look,
I care about you. I care about you as friends. I know you're a masshole, and you'll make fun of my mustache and my work ethic and all of those things.
That's not my fault. You're a slacker. I had a baby. No, your wife had the baby.
Oh, correct. I got back to work today. Everybody's like, congratulations, and so happy for it. Yeah. I didn't do any work. My wife's the superhero. I can do laundry and help out around the house, but you know what it's like. I'm a role player. I am not the star. I am cheerleader on the sidelines doing whatever I'm asked to do.
It's funny though how you came into the office today with your hands up and you're just like, oh, I'm so happy to be here because I don't have to do any of that crap at home.
It's a hot takes. It's hot takes is back. Diapers. Yeah, that's it. Hot takes are back. I appreciate it as always. We will have to do this again in 2 weeks, and I expect you to
kind of hosed us this year with the schedule. Let's be real. We needed a September, early October game so we could space out our visits.
Really could have been, but this just means big numbers for Giardi to be the guy here. You're going to anchor Buffalo Plus this next month.
Well, and the thing too is then you're going to actually see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Barring some miracle of all miracles, which again, I would not bet on this coaching staff to be able to pull that off. So then you can actually say you understood my pain because you lived it for all those years with Buffalo. But then when you actually see this product, you're going to go, oh, good Lord.
And everybody's going to be laughing and being like, but Mike Giardi's a nice guy. And we kind of feel bad because this is how this works. Yeah. Appreciate it, man. As always, you're the best.
Like I said, my friend.
We'll have the 942nd appearance with our favorite guest of all time, Mike Giardi, later on. Pick for the game. Give me a score.
Bills 37-17.
That's fair. What's the line? Do you know what the line is? This is bad podcasting.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's got to be double digits.
It should be.
If it's not, hammer the Bills. Or Vegas knows something, like they always do.
Yeah, Vegas knows something. I said that to my son yesterday. We're watching a game, and Drake Maye runs in for the touchdown. I said to my son, I go, because every once in a while he talks about and I'm like just trying to discourage him as best I can. I go, hey, what do you think the over-under is for this craptastic game? And he looks at me. He looks at the TV. You can see he's trying to do where were they? What's the score now? He's like 46. I'm like, no, it was 47. And they kicked the extra point to make it 47. I'm like, and that's a good day.
It's unbelievable how they always do that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it as always. Make sure to follow Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal. He's the best. Appreciate your time as always. Like, comment, subscribe, follow Mike. We'll get together again soon, man.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
You're the best.